Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Wednesday, February 26th, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
From Studio 7 in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tom Merritt.
In Salt Lake City, I'm Scott Johnson.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Daily Tech News Show Live is made possible by its listeners. Thanks to all of you, including a grant underwritten by Miranda Janelle, That Charlie Dude, Justin Zellers, and Logan Larson. Yay, patron!
Good to have all of you here as always, and welcome to everyone to DTNS Live. You might be watching or listening live, or you might be watching or listening after the fact. We welcome all of
I really thought you were going to say, or you might be watching or listening dead. We don't know.
We don't know. We have no idea how that works.
I actually don't know. That might be possible.
If you are beyond
can't know until you know.
This mortal coil and listening to our show, let us know somehow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, either on this mortal earth or elsewhere, this is the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it a little bit better together. How's everybody doing? Scott Johnson, it is hot as heck in LA, and I don't want to complain, but I'm going to. So please tell me it's nice and cool where you are.
It is, although we keep jumping around like weirdos. I don't know what's going on. It was as low as 9 degrees a few days ago, and then it's almost 60 today. So
yeah.
Everywhere Scott goes, it's cool.
I guess so. I'm a little cold right here, so I guess I'm cool. I'm pretty cool.
Look at Laminar Rainbow jumping in and giving us a super sticker right during the open.
Very nice.
Aw,
Right
thanks.
off the gun. Thank you, Laminar
fun.
Rainbow.
Yeah.
Well, the show is full of tech news, but also fun. That's kind of our thing these days. So without further ado, let's check out the news.
YouTube says it now has more than 1 billion monthly viewers for podcast content. Like, I don't know, DTNS Live maybe. We're not all 1 billion. Research from Edison Podcast Metrics from October shows that in the United States, 31% of weekly podcast listeners prefer YouTube, compared to 27% for Spotify and 15% for Apple Podcasts. I want them to do one of those like 70s commercials. 1 out of 3 doctors prefer YouTube.
Google's Results About You tool, which is meant to help users remove personal information from search results, like, your current address, your phone number, that sort of thing, has gotten a redesigned hub and the ability to refresh outdated results. You, as a user, can now submit removal requests directly from search by clicking the 3 dots beside a result. It's also become available in more countries, adding Australia and South Africa last year.
Modular laptop maker Framework announced its first desktop PC, which has AMD Ryzen AI Max processors. But that means it's slightly less modular because to get that AI boost, they couldn't figure out how to not solder the RAM. So the RAM is not modular, but you get a really good gaming or AI inferencing PC out of that, and everything else is modular. You can pre-order now starting at $1,099, shipping in Q3. Framework also announced a couple laptops, a new 12-inch laptop. That one goes up for pre-order in April, shipping mid-year. And they've got new specs and modules for the 13-inch laptop that's shipping in April.
Warner Brothers Games announced Tuesday that it's shuttering Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and WB Games San Diego, canceling all the current projects with those studios, including the 3 years in the making, if not longer, Wonder Woman game. It was highly anticipated and apparently not coming to light, at least not now. The move comes after a series of disappointing game launches. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League was one of them. MultiVersus was another. WB says it's shifting focus to its 4 core franchises: Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, DC, and Game of Thrones.
Well, everybody's building data centers. I'm building them. Roger's building them. Scott, Sarah, we're all building data centers.
Yeah,
but
I've got a great one in Louisiana right now.
Oh, no. It's the thing to do. It's the new gold rush. Meta, of course, making a lot of large language models and running a lot of sites, needs more data centers. So it is planning a $200 billion campus in the U.S. Louisiana, Texas, and Wyoming are supposedly being considered as possible locations. Meta is already developing a $10 billion data center. I mean, piddly $10 billion in Louisiana. And they've got another one going in Wyoming. So does that mean Texas is the leader for the new one? I don't know.
OpenAI's deep research tool, formerly only available to Pro plan users, is now expanding to Plus, Team, EDU and enterprise subscribers, but not for free users just yet. But for everybody else, you can now get, if you're a Plus user, 10 queries per month. Pro users limits increase to 120 queries per month. The tool can handle in-depth reports with embedded images and better file analysis. So, if you know, you know. Responses can take 5 to 30 minutes, depending on compute demands. But deep research is expanding to more people than ever. Amazon announced it's launching, I'm just going to say this once, okay? Just the once. Alexa Plus.
Whoa. How can I help you?
She just woke up in the next room, and I tried to whisper.
You were really
I'm only going
quiet,
to say
too.
it the once. Only the once.
That's it.
A generative AI-powered version of the tool designed to make voice interactions smoother, more capable. This is something Amazon's been talking about for a couple of years now. First announced that the tool was going to get refurbished back in 2023. So as far as what Amazon announced today, the new version can do things like order groceries, send invites to people, memorize your preferences, analyze documents, stuff that as a smart speaker, it was not able to do otherwise. The assistant also supports vision capabilities, conversational interactions without repeated wake words. That's a big one. And AI-generated content like stories and music. The tool costs $19.99 per month. However, if you're a Prime member, it's free. It's just rolled into your Prime membership. And if you do the math, that turns into something like $14 a month for Prime rather than $20 a month for not Prime. So you'd have to really not want Prime if you wanted to be in the ecosystem otherwise. It's going to start rolling out next month to a few devices, the Echo Show 8, 10, 15, and 21. And the company says it will work on most Amazon-capable devices afterwards.
I want
What are our initial thoughts?
device. I want these changes. I'd like them to come to my older stuff sooner because I have mostly old stuff.
Well, you could just buy one of these. That's what Amazon said in the announcement. Like, hey, you want to jump the line?
You want to get
one
right
of
in?
one of the Echo shows.
I mean, in some way, I'm like kind of like that they are saying to their more cutting edge customers, hey, you'll get a little early access to this thing. You spend a little money on a newer thing, and we're thinking of you a little bit. But then everybody else, for the most part, with the exception of maybe one or two really old ones, I don't know. They said most, so who knows what that means?
That means my original, like, OG Echo is definitely not getting it.
Well,
Well,
I
I'm
have one of those,
wondering
I think
because
that means.
my only Amazon Assistant devices in the house, that's not true. I have an Echo Show in the kitchen, but I have two Sonos Ones that I use Amazon for. And I'm like, well, I mean, they were kind of lagging in the beginning about getting certain capabilities, and I'm just going to guess that they either will not be able to get a plus or now or maybe ever. Hard to say.
Well, why wouldn't they, though? I mean, and when I
Well, I
say
don't
that,
know.
I'm not complaining and saying yeah, they should. They're doing it for some weird reason. Like I'm wanting to talk it out, which is most of this is in the cloud. So it's really about firmware that supports it would be the only reason you couldn't put it on an older device. Because it sounds like they're like, yeah, we want to put it on as many devices as possible, but maybe like continuous wake word monitoring isn't possible in that 10-year-old Echo that I have because the chip can't keep up or something. I wonder what it is that would stop what is almost entirely a cloud service from being supported.
Yeah, the voice, if it recognizes your voice and you like I can't to me they'd have to get specific about why they don't work, and the only thing I can think of is they really would like you to buy up and get a better one, and maybe those are better suited to even the current system or something. But I understand how legacy stuff goes. Maybe they're getting weird about it, but I still don't understand, like, why wouldn't an old Dot work? A Gen 1 Dot, it's just taking my voice and giving me a reply. Is there really that much happening?
Yeah,
They were
Amazon
kinda cagey about it.
Yeah, the company said for the most part, like, most devices will be able to take advantage of this. One of the things that I know it's a little trivial, but I'm so used to in my house just because I use Amazon's assistant to, turn the lights on and off and, do a variety of things, save a recipe, lots of stuff, lots of talking, wake words, Tell the assistant what I want. Wake word. Ask the assistant another question.
Oh, yeah.
Wake word. Do the third thing. And it's cumbersome, but I'm just used to it. I was at a friend's house recently, and they're all HomeKit, HomePod folks. And it was like, hey, ask the thing, and then just, keep asking them.
talking.
Like, no wake word. Oh, that does feel a lot more modern and human-esque. I never would have complained about it until I was like, oh, man, that's what I need. So I think that this is actually a big part of this.
Try ChatGPT voice mode. Like it puts all of these to shame because you could just change your mind midway through the sentence, go, wait, no, actually what I mean is, and it rolls with it. And then it'll start talking to you. You can interrupt it if it gives you the answer and it keeps talking like, actually that's great. Let me change. And that's what they were showing on stage from Amazon today. So I think they're going to leapfrog well over what the other voice assistants out there are doing. Google could do this. They do some of it already, but Amazon is trying to keep pace with what ChatGPT voice mode could do. And the big advantage they have, if this all works as well in reality as it did on stage, is that ChatGPT isn't on devices. It's in an app or it's in a website. And Amazon has devices. It has televisions. It has tablets. And this is going to work on all of those as well as in an app because there's going to be a new app for this that will be available for Android and Apple.
Yeah, if GPT had, OpenAI had some kind of device strategy, and maybe they do deep down and later on, I don't know, but right now they don't have any of that.
I bet they do.
They probably do. They'd have to, right? Or at least partnerships. But either way, they don't have it now, this very moment. This is a good time for Amazon to show a little dominance. They have a huge install base. If these things already work, and if you're a Prime subscriber, you just get it. That was maybe my biggest surprise because I thought with this recent, we're putting some ads in Prime Video. You want to pay $2 and get out of that? It's felt so nickel and dimey that I was sure this was going to come with a premium on top of Prime.
We
and
all
it would be
thought
cheaper.
that.
Yeah, I knew it would be cheaper probably, but I didn't expect it to be just with Prime and then 19 otherwise. And the fact that it's 19 otherwise is quite a jump from 0 to 19 on top of Prime.
Well, I mean,
so I'm not confident we'll hold.
They're
is what I'm
driving
saying.
Prime subscriptions with this by doing
Very
that.
much so.
They're pricing it alongside Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT to say it's no cheaper than those, no more expensive than those either.
Right.
But you could make it cheaper by just getting Prime.
I mean, if Prime doesn't make sense to you, and for a lot of people it doesn't, then this is a standalone option. If you're a Prime user, you're like, it's free, great. And if you do the math,
additional
like I said
charge.
before,
I just wanted to help the pedantics.
Yeah,
in the
no
audience to feel
additional
better.
charge because they do. Even their documentation says free with Prime, and I'm like,
oh yeah. No, I mean you have to pay for Prime, but if you pay for Prime, it comes out to less than what this would be as a standalone product, on an annual basis. So it's like
why
unless
would you
you're just
not pay for Prime?
right.
You have to be like, well, I have reasons that I don't want to work with Amazon. I've got other ways to get deliveries type thing. All good, but yeah, this is definitely meant to drive Prime.
What is 12 times 12?
24
144.
or 144.
Yeah, and Prime is $139 a year.
Yeah.
Or $15 a month.
Tom is correct. You are buying. This is a Prime driver, and here's the fun part about Prime, and it doesn't mess with this. If down the road they want to increase prices, they just keep doing that with Prime Central, and they say, yeah, that still comes with that free A word. It doesn't cost a dime. So really, you're just
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
like, well, we'll raise it over here, but not here.
Yeah.
Like
When
that's
they
actually
they start rolling out new features to the $20 a month crowd, and the Prime people have to wait.
yeah, stuff like that.
Well, and
And
Prime
then-
itself, I mean, has been creeping up in price over the
Yeah.
heck
years.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be, I don't know when I signed up for Prime, and I was a little late to the game. It was under $100, and now it's what, like 140
$139. Yeah.
$139,
For the
yeah.
month, for the year. I mean,
for the year.
For the month, I could
Yeah.
afford
Yeah,
it.
sorry.
Well,
I meant
and
for the-
listen, if you use a lot of Amazon delivery stuff, then Prime really does make sense.
Yeah.
But I think the company has to be like, well, not everybody's going to do it, so we're going to have to offer that $20 a month option.
Apparently,
if
Andy
you just
Jassy
really want to
was like,
use, AI assistant, but not the rest of it.
let's put it out there for people who can't get Prime. There are places where they can't offer it.
There you go.
Let's have that. But let's really try to drive people to sign up for Prime. And then he said, that is my Prime directive.
Oh my gosh, dude, really?
Yep.
I take offense at that just from
Live long and subscribe.
Joe made me full screen so that I had to face what I had just done.
face what you did, Tom.
How can you live with yourself?
That's funny.
I'm moving on.
All right. Well, let's switch gears. Maybe Tom can redeem himself. There have been a lot of City of Tomorrow projects, so to speak, but Toyota has one of its own, and it's all about autonomous vehicles. So, Tom, tell us more.
Yes, the Woven City shows off autonomous vehicle tech by constructing a demo neighborhood. So they used an old Toyota plant that is near Mount Fuji, so a couple hours outside of Tokyo. There are 4 types of transport corridors between the buildings here. One for pedestrians, so you're safe from any other vehicles. One for pedestrians and personal transport, so you share along with bikes and scooters and that sort of thing. One for autonomous vehicles, so that you and the vehicles aren't on the same pathway. And then the good one, underground passageways, so that little trolls can go collect your garbage and do your deliveries and you never have to see them. I assume those are autonomous vehicles as well. Toyota just completed phase 1 on the project. That's the big news today. It has been designing this using a digital twin to optimize how everything works. They got 100 people about to move in. They want to have 2,000 people living here eventually. These are all Toyota employees or employees of related companies, the partner companies like the Nissin Noodle Company. Who would like to move in with them? Anybody want to be in Toyota's City of Tomorrow?
I don't know. I mean, looking at some of their mock-up photos, but the idea of like, there's my coffee truck. It's
that
here.
was a real photo. That wasn't a mock-up. That they actually did that for the press day for the Associated Press.
Right, but in general, yeah, exactly.
It looks like a mock-up photo. It's kind of hilarious.
You've got something like that where I'm like, I'm in. I mean, this is definitely going to work out really well in an urban environment that's very specific. I mean, you're not going to be able to replicate this anytime soon in an older city where they're like, well, we can't just like bury a bunch of tunnels under the city and, have autonomous cars take our garbage. But
do you remember Google doing the smart city in downtown Toronto?
No.
Yes, and then they sort of
Vaguely.
Yeah. So the idea was they were going into a neighborhood that was being redeveloped. And they were going to like put in a bunch of stuff, put in a bunch of infrastructure. So that's what this is for, which is like, yeah, you're not going to redo all of Los Angeles this way, but you got a new development coming, you could start to put in something like this in a new neighborhood or a neighborhood that's being redeveloped. It happens more often outside of the U.S. than in the U.S. because here we have strangulation of zoning that rarely lets you totally redevelop something. But I like this concept of demonstrating like, hey, if you're designing a neighborhood, here are some technologies you could use to design it and make it better for everybody.
They had me at the
100%.
woven city. That's why I love it.
And a
it
view
sounds
of
like
Mount Fuji from
but it
certain,
sounds like
certain
a
bedrooms.
It's like a World of Warcraft zone or something, right? Like just a cool place to visit. The woven city. There's
Would you want to be
magic.
called a weaver? Because that's apparently what they call the people who work.
Oh,
no.
really?
Live there.
No, is weaver some sort of a derogatory term?
No, it's just it's a
No,
term
I don't know.
Culture, 'cause I don't
Maybe.
know. Yeah.
They're probably digital twinning the people too.
Maybe.
I don't know.
They probably are.
I mean, it's
Just
If you
while
want to
Roger
be close
thinks about
to
that.
work, if you want to be close to work, you want to have convenience. You want to,
But of course, you can be close
live
to
a
work. You're in a
modern life.
company.
This is less about that because in Tokyo everybody's close to work. It's more about like showing off like we could design mobility so that autonomous vehicles, pedestrians, scooters, could all work better together.
Yeah. That's
Also,
it's the idea
it's
of any
called
kinda-
Scott. It's called the Woven City because the founder of Toyota founded the company to help make life easier for his mother, who used a manual loom. So he wanted to make a better loom for weaving. For his mother.
I love that. I think that's great, and I think that having that kind of sentimental attachment is really strong. But I just think it evokes kind of like a fantastical nature, like this place is full of mysteries and magic and whatever. And I know it's going to be nothing like that. In fact, if anything, it's kind of a utopian hellspace if you really want to think too hard about it.
It looks like a very modern apartment complex.
It looks. Yes.
There's some utopia, yeah, for sure. There's
I
some
think
of that, but at the same time, it's like, well, but does the bottom floor of all of these high rises, does that become independent stores? It could, and then it would be something that feels less utopian and more like a cool place that you go because you want to be there.
It's part of me is skeptical of any sort of top-down sort of community building.
This is just a blueprint. Toyota isn't selling these.
No, I get it, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, I understand.
Well,
They're trying to demonstrate,
We're kicking it
like,
around.
here's how you design things, and then you can now take those and redesign them and hopefully buy Toyota's hydrogen-powered vehicles, because they're not doing electric vehicles in this for some reason, probably because Toyota doesn't do EVs very well. But yeah, the idea is not do this everywhere, but like use this design as inspiration in other places.
Well, that actually I was wondering about that. If they're not great at EVs, are they particularly known for doing better when it comes to hydrogen-based fuel? Like, is there some reason why Toyota's they're just throwing in the towel and saying, that's hydrogen for us?
They're the leader in creating hydrogen cars. It's just that there are not a lot of hydrogen cars being used.
Built.
All right.
Yeah, and you need. I mean, the network to support the hydrogen.
There are more than you think out there. Like there's a lot of cities are using hydrogen because it's easy to have a city fleet refuel with hydrogen, because you can have you have the whole fleet parked in the same place, so you can have the hydrogen refilling there.
I mean, if they would do like a 6-month internship where you just go live there for 6 months, see how this goes, I would do that.
Yeah,
in a heartbeat.
and
even if I'm not connected to the auto industry, I have nothing to do with any of this technology. Just saying, hey, we want 1 or 2 people from all these major countries.
I totally agree with you.
Just to wake up in the morning and be like, is this better?
Yeah.
I work for noodle maker Nissan, which means I get free noodles, and I live in the city of the future.
Yeah, I'm in. Tom and I'll bunk together. Let's do it, dude.
in your future personal space, you'll bunk together.
Yeah.
The one thing I do like was the underground bit where
the garbage and delivery. and stuff.
where that's out of sight. I don't know how practical that is, because garbage collection, at least when I
Unlike
remember,
a sewer system where we all want it to be above ground.
I mean, sewage systems used to be sort of above
No,
ground.
it's with
No, but
autonomous
like
vehicles.
that's where we're going.
But I mean, like how practical it is to build it, depending on how much garbage a city or that community produces and stuff.
Well, they did it. This is practical. It's not theoretical.
It's practical for them, for that design, for that amount of people. But that when you add more people,
how do you plug this into an existing garbage collection
How do you
system?
plug in existing?
They are going to
collection?
test that too, because they're going to have to take this garbage
right.
somewhere. So yeah,
Right. I'll stay for the next timeshare seminar so I can see all these people. Well, what? No, but
no one's trying to sell you anything. I don't know why I can't get you to realize.
So Tom and Roger and I all live in
It's not
Los
a real
Angeles.
estate development. Yeah.
Tom, Roger, and I all live in Los Angeles, which is a great example of a city where it's like it's very hard to change any mode of transport, right? They're building they built an underground section of the subway, which there is one in Los Angeles. Some of it is above ground, some of it is underground. It took like 1 million years. They're doing another one, which is going to be like another 20-year project. Not a great city to try to do something like this. There are cities, though, or even, not even cities, but just communities where there are enough people who, are mobile and are buying things, and this can be incorporated. I think in 100 years, and I hope we'll all be there for that. But if we're not, I think we will look back on this and be like, remember when we didn't know how to get rid of garbage underground?
People used to put their garbage above ground.
Yeah, just on the street in front of everybody.
There's always a cost and convenience factor, right? I mean, above ground for rail is preferred because it's cheap to do. If you have to dig through ground and you dig through ground in a seismically active region, you run into enormous costs, which is why BART in the Bay Area, all the stuff that's out of San Francisco is above ground. I think there are key elements in here that are great. I do like the grade separation between personal transport, the bicycles, scooters, and pedestrians, and automobile or I guess in this case automated transports.
Great. Would you like to put a deposit?
Well, I mean, I don't know yet.
Are you ready, Roger?
Because in fact, it is a timeshare.
Can I choose a different color?
No, I'm with you though. I agree. I think the using having dedicated lanes for autonomous vehicles specifically. It's you are not driving a car in this neighborhood. Cars drive themselves, and that's it. I think that is going to be really interesting to see what they learn.
Because I think out of all of this, that is the one I think is the most applicable and the one that most people would readily accept.
Well, if you would like to accept it and tell us about it, one way to tell us is on our social networks. We are at DTNS Show. Anywhere. X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Mastodon, at DTNS Show. Well, unless you're on TikTok or YouTube, then we're at Daily Tech News Show. But everywhere else, we are at DTNS Show. Come find us.
Last week, The Verge's David Pierce and Ash Parrish on the Decoder with Nilay Patel podcast talked about why Xbox Game Pass still hasn't turned into the Netflix of games. Scott, I know you've been following the story, so what are your thoughts?
Well, on this particular episode of that show, Pierce highlights the fact that after 8 years of pivoting Xbox away from hardware-centric lifestyle in the video game business, and toward more of a cloud-based company, it still finds itself in a third place in the console war. If there is a war still. It feels like they may have given up that war. But for the rest of us, it still looks like it's an active engagement. And the problem that sort of lies in the heart of the video game software distribution model, how do you pay for big-budget AAA titles that will sell well when they cost $70? And how do you justify cramming those into a subscription model where perhaps third parties anyway are not getting the return on their money they had hoped? So lots of ups and downs about this. I read a transcript, bits and pieces of the podcast. I didn't actually listen to it yet, but I got the gist of it, and I have a few takes on it. I think that we're in a place where we need to at least admit, possibly, that the Netflix model, which keeps getting compared to, is not, I think, is fundamentally different than the Game Pass model. And it may have taken us a little while to learn why or how, what the sort of intricate details of that difference is. But there are a bunch of differences. If anything, it's closer to the music business, in my opinion, where small developers up to AAA developers who have this choice to make. Do we want to be on Game Pass? What does that give us? Well, we get a little bit of promotion help from Microsoft, and we get money based on hours played and other stuff they don't tell anyone about. We don't know. Some deals they make very special deals because they want to get a hot game on their service. And in other cases, it's just a much more pedestrian thing where that third party goes to Microsoft and says, we'd like to be on Game Pass. It's a little like the music business. You're never going to see as big a return for your 10-year, $300 million game project than you would if you just straight sold it. But then again, if people are buying enough subscriptions to Game Pass or other services like it, then maybe they're not out spending $70 on your game. Instead, they're playing the games they're getting for $15 a month. So you're getting less and less as the creator. Think of them as the musician or the band. And you're getting more and more for this kind of piecemeal thing. And I think the ones that benefit from this the most are smaller indie titles. But even then, they're at a bit of a disadvantage if they don't have other channels working for them as well. So here's the other fundamental difference. Netflix is all about exclusivity. They do have movies that come in and out, of course, TV shows that come in and out, that sort of thing. But
their originals are,
that's their big draw, right?
Yeah.
That's the big draw. It has been for a very long time, since House of Cards. And in Microsoft's case, they have built up a AAA set of studios to do just this, to populate Game Pass with big ticket items. So they buy Bethesda, they buy Obsidian, they buy Blizzard, and they buy Activision. They do all these things to kind of beef all that up. And there's no doubt that they have done that. But the question is, has it yielded the results they've wanted, which is a huge increase of subs? And they've kind of shot themselves in the foot with that a little bit by saying, look at these AAA studios and these giant companies we've bought. Now it's everywhere. So you can play it here on Game Pass, but it's not exclusive. You can go buy it on Steam if you don't want to do Game Pass. You can go buy it on your PlayStation 5 in a lot of cases. Like, that's a weird bit of this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think what's fascinating, I listened to the whole podcast, and one of the points that they make in it is that they're targeting the same market, which is the console, the diehard video gamer. And I think one of the issues that I think the subscription model presents is it lays bare, I don't want to say broken, but how the system is designed right now, which when exclusivity was king, that a lot of these studios were built up and grew around that model. And so they were dropping, they're dropping summer blockbuster money to produce games that they hope will sell enough, not only just to break even, but to go beyond it, because that's what they've trained that audience to expect. And I'm wondering, part of the problem is if maybe they need to expand on who they're targeting, right? Beyond just like the avid gamers, but yeah, maybe the one person who's never played anything beyond maybe like what Bejeweled or something, like offer games that maybe are a little more sophisticated, a little more in depth, but are easier to get into. Like if you're not an avid gamer, some of these platformers, some of these first person shooters can come off as very overwhelming, right? You have how many? 16 Final Fantasies. If you never played any of them, you might be like, well, I'm coming into this so late, I'm not going to invest the time. I mean, this is one of the reasons why Star Wars, the franchise, had such a hard time in India and China, is because those audiences did not grow up with those movies, and now you're expecting people to jump in when you're on like movie number 10 of a long-standing franchise, meaning that, oh, now I got to watch everything and catch up, and so there might be feeling a little overwhelmed by the whole process. Maybe have it so where you do have your sort of reality show level of games, or something that people get into, even something as simple as Monument Valley, which is a very nice casual puzzle game that I think most people could get into without having to have the twitch reflexes, without having to have in-depth knowledge of,
I mean, they did buy the company who owns most of the mobile casual market, and that's King. And they haven't really leveraged it yet outside of mobile. Yeah. They're just sort of still reaping whatever benefits they already had. But to the point of whether or not they are still not the Netflix of gaming, I would also point out that if Netflix had, let's say, Stranger Things, huge hit for them, right? Every time a new season's coming, everyone loses their mind. Let's go. It's only going to happen on there. If Microsoft's nowhere near that kind of model, because what they do now is they say, all right, the big new game is Avowed. So they're like, yeah, Avowed, or previous to that, the Indiana Jones game. Get it on our platform. Get it with Game Pass day one. But it's also on Steam and Epic, and you can get this one in particular. This one over here is on PlayStation, and also this other one's coming to PlayStation. Like, they're not. That would be like Netflix going, all right, Stranger Things day one, but also if you're on Hulu, it's there. Oh, if you're also on Prime, you get it there.
Yeah.
Like, you see what I'm
like
saying?
Star Trek. Star Trek is on Netflix, or was. I actually don't think it's on there anymore. But at one point, Star Trek was on Netflix and on Paramount and on Hulu, right? It was cross-platform. Mm-hmm. The difference is when you make a TV show or a movie, you don't make it with a platform in mind. Right. When you make a video game, you have to have platforms in mind. Like, you have to take steps to make sure that it plays on the platforms you want it to play on. Mm-hmm. Whereas when I make a movie, I mean, yes, technically you have to encode it in a way to distribute it. But that when you're making the movie, you don't worry about that. You're like, yeah, we can encode it for whatever later on. When you're making a video game, it makes a big difference what platforms you're targeting.
Yeah,
And
there's also a timing thing. It's like when they're new, that's when, lightning strikes. When they're old, you can do things like, let Star Trek live wherever it wants to. This is Paramount speaking, but let's just put it wherever we want to have it for a while. We'll bring it back.
We don't
and then
have
let
to
it
ask
out.
the devs to do a lot of work to convert it to be on another platform. We do have to ask. I know some of the devs who do the conversion, and they're going to be like, it's not nothing, but it's not the same as like we need to port this for Windows or we need to port this for Nintendo.
And
Right.
I mean, which is weird in a way. Microsoft's the Xbox Game Pass sort of solves that. If you de-hardware the layer that people need to deal with.
That's the promise. Yeah.
That well, the idea is that then the developer just needs to develop for whatever the back end is, right? If it's x86, I develop for a PC, I'm done, and I don't have to do any more of the ports.
And then when that happens, then we can get more of a Netflix of gaming, but we're just not quite there yet.
I think it's not there, and I also think the mindset of the industry is still focused on what has been, and I think that has been the console exclusives. That's been the hardware, but it's also a very small group, not small group, but it's a very static group of players, right? Like a lot of younger gamers will play on mobile. They'll play on phone. They'll play on a non-traditional. They'll play through a web browser if possible. And I think I honestly think Xbox just might be too far ahead of the curve on this for you to see that.
Well, they want to be, right? They want to be. So when this does turn, they want to be there at the turn and be ready, and no one else be as ready as they are. So that's still a time will tell kind of problem. But they're just. I think
it's kind of like critiquing the catalog of Netflix in 2007.
Yeah,
the streaming option.
There you go.
They've got everything on DVD, but there's hardly anything on streaming. This thing's bad. It's like, well, give it a few years.
And
Turns
they
out
only
it's going
got
to be
rid
fine.
of the disc 2 years ago.
Even when they had a couple of big shows, even when they had House of Cards and Orange is the New Black and 2 or 3 others, even then, I think it was too early to make a judgment call. But now that they've got swaths of original content with Netflix's name on them,
they have created the space.
Right.
No one is not doing streaming. Streaming is the future of television now.
Right. Yeah, they brute forced it. Microsoft would like to be that.
Microsoft thinks they're Netflix in 2007.
Yeah. Not the way we think of Netflix, but the way they do.
And
that's an important
GeForce
distinction.
Now is the Hulu.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of. They really need
not
to,
far off.
which is funny because they really need to be more of a Tubi or a Pluto TV. But that's my
we haven't got there yet. We're still too early in the metaphor for that.
You want ads in your games? Roger, we're going to have a talk later.
Yeah.
We talked. Didn't we just
You
talk
put
about
your
this,
peanut
Andy?
butter in my game.
Yeah.
And now my game won't play because it's covered in peanut butter.
Yeah. Why'd you do that? All right. We could talk about this all day, but moving on. Roger, Bloomberg recently ran an opinion piece regarding Apple's decision to discontinue advanced data protection for iCloud customers in the UK. Lots of people have thoughts about this. So what did they say?
Parmi Olson wrote this opinion piece in Bloomberg, and the title, the thrust of it is that Apple's decision to close the user-controlled end-to-end encryption for iCloud users in the UK was more of a Pyrrhic victory and sort of a moral victory, but not necessarily one that would show any substantive changes on the ground. And she brought up several arguments. One, the British government basically doesn't need a backdoor anymore because they got what they wanted. But more importantly, that the British customers seemed rather indifferent to the whole thing. Rather, there was no rallying cry or massive rallying cry or pushback against this. And her core argument is that of the piece was the privacy paradox, which is the gap between what people say they concern them about privacy, like I only want myself or my family to control it, and what they actually do in reality in order to preserve that privacy. And one of the things that often people do is like, well, I'm worried about apps, taking my data and using it, but they'll download it and run those apps anyway on their phone. Or in my case, sometimes some of these tools might be a little onerous or a little confusing, so you skip it because it's actually just more expedient to run without it. For example, I had an old laptop for the longest time that I did not run any sort of encryption on the hard drive because Windows 10 would not allow me to use BitLocker because the laptop lacked a trusted protection module on it, so it would not be able to run. I could have implemented something else, but it would have been too time consuming, and so I just shrugged my shoulders, like, yeah, I'll hope for the best. And really, how do you get people to kind of take privacy, security strong enough that they will kind of maybe jump through the hoops in order to get it done?
Make it easy. I mean, the news that Google Password Manager is now cross-platform on Chrome, and you can make it a default on iOS now for managing your passkeys. You got to do that.
Yeah.
You got to make it so that it is not something anyone has to think about. They can just do it. That's why the thing with passkeys right now is it's gotten a name for being complicated because it's not ready yet. It's too early, and so a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't want to use passkey, even though it actually is easier. It isn't easier yet because it's not fully there, but doing things like that will make it easier to where like, oh, I just have a passkey and now I can use it everywhere. When that happens, people will adopt it. That goes for any privacy protection. You have to make it easy, and it's not in the company's financial interest to make it easy.
It's the whole thing you were talking about, Roger, this disassociation between people and what they think they believe about how important privacy is versus what they're actually willing to do. And Tom's right. If it's not almost a default, almost a breath away from being that easy, then no one does it. Or I shouldn't say no one, but a huge swath of people won't do
we
it.
also say people say they want this, but they act like this. Do they, though? Or is it we have a group of very loud people who say they want privacy, and then we have the large majority we never hear from who don't act as if they want to protect their privacy? They may be entirely different groups of people.
Yeah, we're probably overlaying some of that, I'm sure. But
I think, it kind of reminds me of the whole debate that we still have around recycling, right? Like a lot of people say they believe in recycling, but when it comes down to it, like the way products are packaged, sometimes it makes it a little more difficult to do the separate. Like before, you had to separate your plastics, your glass, your aluminum, and stuff. There was a lot of hoops until they had processing facilities that could do that on site, and so people could just stick it in the blue bin and have it picked up.
I mean, it depends on where you are. There are places in the world where they are very strict about separation, and if you put it in the wrong bin, including not recycling, you'll get fined. Those places tend to sort their trash really well, and then there's places where they took the opposite tack.
That's interesting because that brings up the cost, right? And for a lot of people, privacy does not have a cost until you get that weird, like, oh, I didn't sign up for this credit card, or hey, I don't remember this car loan. Or
the cost is sort of disassociated.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And so, it's one of those things until you see money leaving your bank account, it becomes more of a hypothetical. Yeah, I should really do something about that, but I got to go get lunch first. I know I should worry about this, but I don't want to deal with it, right? Especially if you have to take action. Which the other thing with the Apple ADP specifically that I think gets lost in a lot of this coverage is that brings Apple down to the same level as everyone else, right? It's not that they removed encryption. They said, we're no longer going to store the keys on your device. It was something you had to opt into, so most people don't have it anyway. That's another reason why people are complaining is they didn't have it on. Yeah. It's the very sensitive few, like, the members of government who passed the law that is enabling this, who probably need it.
Yeah. It's such a funny thing because everybody wants to make it sound like it's something that's getting stripped from them. And I guess the option is being stripped from them. But
yeah. And Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, a lot of them, they only offered this to corporate customers at the enterprise level. They weren't offering it to regular people. Yeah.
Which is the Apple's whole thing, right? They're always harping on this. It's all about personal security, and that's one of their chief selling points. And they hammer it home. And when they pull something like this, or they have to, they're forced to, everyone loses their minds. But I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, what are they going to do? Keep doing it?
And it might be something that needs to be like maybe not taught, but at least emphasized as you go up through life, right? Like there are certain things you need to be aware of. I was raised like, always make sure the door's locked when you leave the home to go to school, right? I mean, like, there's you might
people?
I hope so.
I don't know.
I hope so. Well, no, this is a good point, Roger, because my kids are your kids are still small, right? Mine are.
Yeah.
They were being taught well by you. I taught my kids very well about not just doors, but passwords. Make sure they're complicated and hard. If you can do a password manager, do it. All this stuff. They are all over the place in terms of adhering to my advice. In some things, they are very good at it. In other cases, they're like, someone got in my Facebook again, Dad. What do I do? I'm like, you know what to do. I told you what to do 10 years ago. So it's still frustrating because convenience and desire are not the same often.
Yeah, and oftentimes a lot of these security implementations aren't necessarily the same across the board. And so it does take like, well, how do I turn this on? How do I do that? Oh, in some cases, it might be two different sections that you need to deal with. And so it can be a little frustrating for people who just want to like, what do I turn on? And now I don't have to worry about it versus, oh, I have to turn this on. I have to turn this on. Oh, and then I have to agree to this. And so I think there's way more obstacles to getting people to turn to care about it in a way that makes it practical for their day-to-day living. And I'll stand by that.
Put a fork in it.
I appreciate that, Roger. We appreciate all of your thoughts that we know you have about our conversations from the show today. So please send them our way. And in that vein, let's check out the mailbag. If you want a speedier way to re-entry the U.S. after traveling abroad, Chris Christensen knows a lot about this. He's the amateur traveler, and he has a handy tip for you.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. I missed a flight coming back from Cuba recently because the flight I was on was delayed by 2 hours because it blew a tire. But one thing that could have helped and is free was signing up for the mobile passport control system, which speeds the reentry to the United States. This is something that's available to U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, Canadians, and returning visa waiver program applicants. And it's a mobile app that you can get on your smartphone that you fill out a profile there, and then typically you get redirected to a different and much shorter lane at immigration. That's MPC, Mobile Passport Control. Just look for that app. And this is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
We have used that, Eileen and I can vouch for what Chris says. It does speed things up.
Nice.
Love that.
I love Chris. He's awesome.
Well, remember, folks, you can send in your comments to us, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Please do it now.
Do it
Right now, send us a message.
Scott Johnson, you better be back next week, and that's an order.
Oh, well, all right then. I'll be back next
Fine.
week. I guess
Great.
I
Thank
can
you.
make time in my crazy schedule to be here on a Wednesday.
Yeah,
I love
speaking
being
of-
here. Who are we kidding? It's the greatest thing in the world to be here on a Wednesday.
Well, speaking of crazy schedules, when you're not here with us, what are you up to these days?
Well, I was going to, I talk about games a lot and that sort of thing. But this week I want to talk about my show, Film Sack, which has been around since 2009. It is a show that just looks at movies each and every week with my 3 other fantastic co-hosts. And we're just having such a great time on there that I felt like it was just time to just poke everybody that direction. If you haven't checked out Film Sack, go to filmsack.com or wherever you get your podcasts and check it out. We got a bunch of talk about Oscars lately. Just a nice, fun distraction from the rest of the world's news. Go check it out. That, again, is filmsack.com.
DTNS.showbot.tv is the place to buy a house.
Yeah.
Is it?
No, it's not. It's the place where you can submit a title for the show during the show, like Stealth Dave did. He said, "You get a data center, and you get a data center." That was his title.
You're talking about Meta. Mm-hmm.
We also have Batfink with Game Pass and Chill.
Game Pass and Chill. Yeah, everybody
that's how
loves
it becomes
a
the
Netflix
Netflix
joke.
Amazon updates the tool, in quotes, from Ken Otafian.
I'm sorry, I had to say it the one time. I had to say it the once.
You have to. You have to. It's just, for clarity. Saray TW wanted to force me to say the Prime Directive again. Thanks, Saray. Oh, Clinton Woodward shooting up the charts with Garbage Trolls.
Garbage trolls.
Right.
Sneaking
under the city in Japan.
I mean, are they even trolls or are they heroes?
Could they be both?
I feel like anybody who is taking care of my garbage under my house is a hero.
Is a hero to me.
Yep.
And probably covered in the hero sandwich that I ate earlier that day.
Oh my gosh.
Zoe Brings Bacon suggests my game is covered in peanut butter.
And why wouldn't it be?
And Stealth Dave with Live Long and Subscribe.
I love
That's
that
good.
one.
That was
Yeah,
really good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Sarah, what did we go with?
We went with Game Pass and Chill. That one came in from Batfink 2001.
For a minute, I thought it said Game Pass and Chili, and now I want Chili.
Oh, chili. I mean,
It could be Game Pass and Chill and Chili.
It could be all
what
three.
do you eat with chili?
And you could
typically?
invite your hero troll friend
You eat
to join.
Game Pass content.
Yeah, you
obviously,
eat-
Roger.
I eat it with tortilla chips along with the Game Pass.
Cheese. That's
No,
the right
no.
answer. It's cheese.
Chili and tortilla.
Yeah, you use the tortillas as a
chili.
utensil as a mode of getting the chili from the bowl into your mouth.
This isn't bad.
That is what a tortilla was made for.
There are a variety of ways to do this. A spoon also works.
Tortilla
Yeah.
chip,
Sure.
Tortilla chip. Yep. Okay.
and not
Yep.
those Tostitos because they break so easily.
Oh no, the tortilla is garbage. Sorry.
I don't understand why.
Sorry. No.
They're too
too
thin.
thin of a chip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Don't like them.
but they're marketed as perfect kind of
But have you ever noticed that tortilla chip brands have thin versions sometimes? They'll have
Yes.
like restaurant
Yes.
style and then like thin. And I'm like, why would you want the one that will break? I don't understand.
Oh, I love them thin though. The
some
thick
people
ones.
just don't
Yeah.
like the thick chip.
I don't like a thick chip. I don't like a thick pizza. I
Casa
like a thin
Sanchez
pizza.
chips. This is very West Coast, but they're up in the Bay Area, but you see them in LA. The best Grusso's chips, but they're thick. And my mom, where I've like brought her like a bag of chips, here and there, she's like, they're too thick. It's too much chip. It's almost like the conversation about like thin or thick crust pizza. You just like one or the other.
yeah.
And Scott is on the thick
What
side.
you don't want
or
is
thin
for
side
the
of
chip
both
to
Thin side.
break
Thin.
when
Yeah,
you put
thin
something on it.
No, you're
I like
totally
the
right.
chip.
You give
How
up
do
a
you do
lot
it,
for
Scott?
thin. You give up a lot for thin. I understand this.
Do
but
you have
there
to
is
be dainty with your dips?
no. There's a happy medium where the tensile strength of a chip will be equal to the task, and not thick. So you got to hunt around and find a
I
brand.
don't
that
want to
works.
do
Are you
trigonometry when I'm
dipping it in
dipping my
soup?
chips.
Sometimes, but I'm saying like dip like guac and stuff heavy. You can find them. I'm telling you, they're out there. They don't need to be so thick that it's like, man, I'm full
I'm
after
sure
3
they
of these.
use exotic ingredients in order to improve the strength.
Cilantro.
Exotic ingredients such as cilantro and salsa.
I believe the term is coriander, but yes.
I'm gonna find a brand and bring it
I
next Wednesday. I'm gonna find
All
a
right.
good brand.
I
That's
mean,
my goal.
also, what is your go-to dip then? Like guac, or is it
Anything.
like
Water,
guac,
because it can't
salsa.
handle anything else.
No, water would weaken it. You need something with some
Sloppy
some heft.
nachos. Scott's just like, just get water on that. It's gonna be
My-
so
or
good.
do you just throw the chips into it and then use a spoon and eat it all?
Well, okay, I will admit that when you get to near the
I'm
bottom
not
of a
above
bag
doing
of
that.
light ones, they do get all crumbly. So then you take those, chuck them in your chili. Now you got a little something else in your chili. So,
We actually use those on Seven's food
oh jeez,
because he loves tortilla chips, and it's like, okay, you get a little bit. We'll sprinkle it on your food.
I mean, those aren't bad. For
Seven is a
dogs, right?
dog for anybody who doesn't know.
No,
It's not a child.
no, it's not. Jerry
Well, it's a younger
Ryan.
dog, right?
Tom's
He's
like,
not-
did I
Yeah,
not
yeah.
mention I have a child?
Well, we get
He
new
eats potato
new,
chips
We get new
and
viewers all
sometimes
the
tortilla
time.
chips.
So,
I thought it was Jerry Ryan from Star Trek Voyager.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
he's,
no,
he's
she
only
swings
7
by.
of 1.
I
7 of 1.
I will say I was elated the one time she joined our little back when X was still Twitter. She commented on a post about me being a bad Starship driver.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
said-
have some memory of that. She did a great
We
job.
did that game Artemis where you can sort of pretend that you're the bridge crew with like 4 other people. I wore like the little officer shirt and everything. But I was the helmsman, and I was really bad at it because I didn't understand the controls. And we joked about it. It's like, oh, 709 was here, and they added Jerry Ryan. It's just, oh, whatever. And it's like, I'll drive. So
It's always fun when somebody like that responds.
Yeah.
Or it used to be.
Used to be. It's a little once in a while something like that'll happen on Blue
Depends
Sky
these
or
days.
something. But,
I'm going to agree with Sorak in our chat, who says
Yeah?
chips and fries, thinner the better. Pizza, thicker the better.
Wait, fries?
Wait,
Thin
you agree that
fries?
chips should be thinner?
chips thinner, pizza thicker. He says.
Oh,
But I
just
disagree.
all I saw was pizza, and my mind went black. I love deep dish pizza. That's what I'm saying.
I like
That's
deep
fair.
dish pizza, but I do not like deep, thick, crusty pizza like
I
pan
love
pizza.
it.
Can't
I want
stand
it to
pan
be, 4 inches.
I want your
Vertical.
standard New York Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
take this-
yeah. We
oh,
get
Have
it.
you
wow.
been to?
Jeez.
I think it's Gino's East in the Valley. It's a
No, I'll
Chicago. It's a Chicago pizza place, but they have a branch in Los Angeles, and it's run by a Chicagoan. Tastes pretty close to the real thing.
I
Closest
will
you'll get
be
out
there
here.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
I love
It's-
it. I mean,
it's so good.
Gino's East and the
there's
West
nothing
Coast.
better than a good deep dish pie. And then you're like, yum. And then you have one slice and you're like, I'm full for 2 days. I have
one slice,
5
it's like-
slices left. It's so
It's
great.
like 2 bites. and
It's
I'm
on
like,
Riverside Drive in Sherman Oaks, California.
How
that's
about
where the Brady
that?
Bunch, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, yes.
Sherman
That's where the Brady.
Like
it's
the Brady
actually
Bunch.
I think it's pretty close to the Brady Bunch house, which is technically in Studio City, which is right next to Sherman.
No. Well, the valley is full of all sorts of little towns.
It is, and none of them are towns. They're just imaginary places. They're part of Los Angeles, but you get to put them on your address. So
There you go.
it's fun.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a common Los Angeles argument to be like, that one's not actually a town or not, right? Because you do have, like, West Hollywood is an actual town, like separate from Los Angeles. Beverly Hills, actual town.
Santa
separate from
Monica.
Santa
Yeah.
Monica.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Venice,
but then you
not
have
an actual
neighborhoods
town.
like mine where I'm mid-city. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, where are you exactly? It's like, well, we call ourselves Arlington Heights, but like everyone's like, where's that?
When
I'm
people
like,
say
it's
the
like a
valley to you
4-block
guys,
radius.
when people
Yeah.
say the valley to you guys, what do they mean usually?
They
means north
mean
of me.
all the stuff on the other side of the mountains.
It's
Okay.
everything. It's everything. Is it Simi Valley considered part of the valley?
Good question.
Simi Valley is its own thing.
I think it's its own thing farther
Because
north
it's
of
all
the
it's like Burbank and all the way through
everything from
Van Nuys.
Topanga to
Yeah.
Burbank. Well,
Okay.
Glendale, I guess. Well, Pasadena. Everything
Yeah.
from Topanga
pretty
to
much.
Pasadena.
Yeah.
and Valley
Valley.
Girls are a myth, right? That's a myth. The Valley
Oh, no,
Girls.
there's
Oh
lots of
no,
girls
it's
there.
not a myth.
Okay.
No,
It was
no,
a
they're
it was
alive
a
and
trend.
well.
Yeah.
That's
There are men and women,
Okay.
In the
All
Valley.
right.
But-
No, that's good to know.
boys and
No,
girls,
well,
children
but-
of all ages.
I feel like the valley. People go like, "Oh, the valley, like what's going on there?" It's like lots of cool stuff. I mean, I love Studio City. That's a fun place to have dinner.
It's a great name.
Yeah, there's
Studio
there's
City.
good restaurants in Studio City.
Totally.
I actually really like Burbank and Pasadena to do.
So is
Totally.
West
Glendale
Hollywood?
also, in
West
Roger's
Hollywood
neck
is
of the
its own
woods.
city.
West
not part
Hollywood
of-
is its own
West
city, but
Hollywood
Hollywood is
is
not.
part of LA.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
And North Hollywood is nowhere near either of them because it's in the valley and it's also part of Los Angeles.
But
Weird.
it's not that far, but you do have to go over the hill.
You have to go over an entire mountain. Yeah.
So it does feel like, well, we're
You're-
not.
you're separated
We're the
out.
same
It's that thing where
place.
people from out of town will say, I'm in North Hollywood. And I'm like, oh, cool. But wait, do you mean north part of Hollywood or North Hollywood? Because those are entirely different places.
Yeah. I mean, this is the fun of LA. And also the reason that some people don't like it. You know what?
Yeah, well.
What we do like is folks who are supporting us every day
Yes.
on the show.
We love you, LinkedIn viewer. You're our favorite.
Yeah.
Let us know who you are. We also love all the people watching on YouTube. Had a good time with them today. By the way, who was it? I want to make sure I get the name right. Let me scroll back here. Somebody was watching when we were doing the social media tease. Claz was like, "You're not on Tumblr," so I made a Tumblr account. screenshotted him saying we were not on Tumblr and made it our first post on Tumblr. So now we're on Tumblr.
Nice.
So thank you, Claz. Also,
great.
thank you again, Laminar Rainbow, for the super sticker. Thanks to everybody supporting us on Twitch. We got Doc Bobby just followed us 10 minutes ago. Hey, Doc Bobby. Harley Davidson 10 followed us just about a half hour ago. So he brings bacon with some bits. Paley Glendale with some bits. Gringo Loco followed us 4 hours ago. Thanks, everybody, for supporting us in all the different ways you can, including patreon.com/DTNS.
If you are a DTNS supporter, and if you're listening or watching, you know you are, we'd love for you to show your support for us out and about. We've got lots of good stuff at dailytechnewsshow.com/store. We've got mugs. We've got t-shirts. New t-shirts, by the way. Very cool t-shirts. Mouse pads, just peruse and see what works for you. Our new DTNS Live logo is part of the t-shirts, and we're into them. Lots of different colors. They're great looking ways to support us and the show and have a conversation with somebody who says out and about, hey, what's that mean? And you say, oh, this is this cool show that I like. So thank you in advance. You can watch us live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC, and find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We're back doing it all again tomorrow, talking about what the data says about social media and misinformation, with Andrea Jones-Roy joining us. Hope to see you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.